Hi, Crystal. Thanks for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Crystal Zhao, and I work with you for a couple more days at least. So we work for a software company that does cloud-based, like planning stuff. I'm probably gonna get in trouble for not saying that more eloquently if this ever gets around to anyone at work. But
As long as you don't say their name, I think you'll be okay. I
okay.
mentioned them one time for the Houston Chronicle article, and I got some PR messages saying that when you refer to our company, you must use these words. And I'm like, okay, well.
Okay, sure. Well, so that's where we work. We do software stuff, but I live in Minneapolis. But I grew up in South Carolina, but I've lived a lot of other places in between, but all America, 99% America. Yeah. So.
What took you from South Carolina to Minneapolis?
So I was in South Carolina because my parents moved there for work when I was in second grade. And then I went to college in North Carolina. And then my sister went to college in Philadelphia. And I moved to Philadelphia to be with her because she was 17 years old starting college. And I had I was in a place in my life where I could have gone anywhere. So I moved to Philadelphia with her. And then I was in Philly for 6 years. And I started work at a company there that moved me around. They moved me to Boston for 2 years, and then they moved me here. So that's how I ended up in Minneapolis. It would not have been my choice. When I was kind of seeing my life, like I thought I would always live on the coast, but now that I'm here, it's the best kept secret in the country. I think it's amazing here.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely gets cold up there, but the summers are nice.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. I mean, I think like earlier this week it was like -6, which is, you just put on a coat and do it. It's not that bad. I mean, maybe if I was like a farmer or something, I'd be pretty unhappy about it, but we work from home. We have cars with heat in them. We live. So, yeah.
So I know you're an avid reader.
I
and
am.
You like to read a lot. What are some of your other hobbies and interests?
So I'm also a huge board gamer. So actually prior to this meeting, I was watching Dice Tower's top 10 games. They always do an annual thing. They stretch it out over an entire week. And I was kind of playing that in the background while working. So I love that, but I don't know if I've ever wanted to, make my own board game channel. People have said to me before, they're like, you buy so many new board games and there's so many different YouTube channels of people explaining new board games as they come out, like you should do it. But like, I've always kind of been hesitant to do the camera thing, so that's why it took me so long to do this interview with you, even though we've been friends for like a year.
I know, I think, was it in September I came down there? Or
so.
August?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
and we met at
out.
the sushi place, and
Yes.
we ended up hunting down a person with dogs on the street.
That you got to phrase that differently. All right, it doesn't sound. We didn't hunt anyone down like on the street. Like we were trying to find somebody for this interview, for this project. Not. It sounds like we were actually just like killing people in the street. Yeah. No, but yeah. So I think you asked me then. We were like, we got a couple hours left. We got to make an interview happen today. And I was like, I don't want to do it. Let's go find somebody else. And so that's where the hunting commenced. Yeah.
And it worked out well. We asked a few people and like, no, forget it, whatever. And, but then we found like, these two couples that were out walking their dogs, chit-chatting. And they're like, hey, that's cool. Let me do it. So
yeah, they're
just
very open. I find that people here in Minnesota are generally very open to that. They're not as guarded as they are on the East Coast, and that's one thing that I was really surprised to find moving out here, because when you live in like Philly or Boston, I think it's much harder to just approach somebody on the street without them being like, "Is this a scam?" Like what?
I know, I get that so
yeah.
much. I get that so much, and I don't know how to kind of get over that in like a few milliseconds at the beginning of the conversation, because
I mean, it's hard because that really is like a threat to nowadays. There's so many people that don't know, they don't trust the outside because they're always bombarded with news of, this is the new way to get somebody's credit information. This is the new way to steal someone's car. And so like people are constantly on alert, so.
Yeah, either trying to get information to harm you or information to sell something to you or.
Right. Yeah. The selling thing too. That's a big one, like when you walk, just even in the mall, if you walk by somebody and they say, wow, your hair looks nice. It's never a true compliment. It's always like, it could look nicer with our new styling iron. Yeah. So, right.
I know. I gotta admit that I've ended up buying those things just to get interviews out of people.
Yeah.
Those are like some of the more expensive interviews.
No. So I have and my fiance constantly gives me crap about this. I do have a complete weakness for salespeople. Like if I am in the mall or I'm at like a farmer's market, if someone sells to me, like gives me attention and explains something to me and like actually really puts the pressure on, I like buckle right away. I buy it, so.
I actually worked in a call center briefly, like just for a few weeks, like doing cold calling. I worked for the Houston Post, which was one of our two newspapers at the time. Of course, I must not have done a good job because there's no longer a Houston Post, but.
Oh no. I actually, one of my first jobs was I was the hummus salesperson, like the sample person in the grocery store. And I wore a little hairnet and I had my little, my little wooden spoons and my little plastic souffle cups. And I offered hummus samples to passerbys at the Whole Foods. That was one of my first jobs.
How was that? Did you have any interesting conversation?
It was mostly just generic questions about the organic properties of the, like Whole Foods customers, they want to know everything up and down about their food. I mean, some of them, but yeah, so it was mostly that. It was mostly kind of just pulling from a list of questions that I was provided in my training. Like they're going to ask, where did this come from? Where does the tahini come from? Where does the garlic come from? Is it local? Whatever, right? So it was mostly just kind of giving that stuff back and then exchanging recipes, because I think there were a lot of people there that gave me some ideas too. They were like, oh, I don't just eat hummus as a dip. I, put it in my smoothie or I, massage my foot with it. I don't know, whatever, right? So they do different things with the hummus. So.
That is awesome. Well, coming back to how to approach people, I went to Mexico City for a few weeks during December. And the great line that worked out there was looking at people who look like they should be English speakers and saying, are you an English speaker? Because that actually was instant connection. And
yeah, did you find, like, what rate would you say you got of people that actually were English speakers, like you were correct on?
I think the only one that I was kind of incorrect on, he was an English speaker, but he was French. So English was like his third language.
Sure, yeah.
But pretty much otherwise, I was pretty right on.
Were you just going by like Caucasian features? Like what were you going by dress? Like how were you assessing, who you thought would be an English speaker?
Well, sometimes a good fortune of actually hearing them speak English. That was a big giveaway.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Caucasian features would be the one. Or people that look like tourists. There's a lot of Germans in Mexico City too. So probably, but
yeah. So that was where I was kind of going. I was like, can you tell the difference if you don't hear them between a European and an American? Like, could you? Like, what would be the symbols? Like, what would be the?
Yeah, I think pretty much, other than like two people, I had heard them speaking English. No. So it was kind of a rhetorical question at that point.
Sure. So I have this really interesting story where, so my family, like I was actually born in Shanghai, but I just came over really young. So, I don't feel very connected to China, but I remember going back as a teenager. And, so I had black hair then, like, no makeup. I was young, right? And so I fit in with everybody. Like I looked like everybody and I was wearing clothes that my family had gifted me. So it was like normal dress. I wasn't dressed like an American or anything like that. And we went into some store and my aunt was talking to the shopkeeper and the guy that was running the store, like kind of picked me out and was like, does she speak Chinese? And I was just like, why me? You know, like how would, and they were correct that I was American, and they couldn't, I like for years, I couldn't understand how he knew I was American when I looked just like them. I dressed just like them. Like I hadn't said anything. So there was no accent for him to go off of. And so for years I wondered that. And it wasn't until, I was an adult and I was like talking to a guy at a bar who traveled to China for business a lot, that he said to me, I know exactly what it was. You probably made eye contact with the shopkeeper. And in China, young people do not make eye contact with older people that they don't know. So, and that was huge for me, that I didn't even make that connection. For years, I didn't make that connection, but so it makes sense. No, because I guess Americans are just brazen and disrespectful, and we just look at older people in the eye all day. So, but that's how we knew.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how those customs kind of fade away and come back and that type of thing.
Right.
Well, whenever you think about the future of humanity, what do you see? I know we read Quality Land.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is going in the direction of that book, Quality Land. I think that we will rely on technology so much that we do kind of become mathematical formulas rather than humans, like I think that our supposed free will is not going to exist as we think it does. Like I think that we think we're choosing this restaurant and we think we're choosing this car, but I think that we will learn that we are just products of mathematical algorithms, and I think that we will, I hope we don't, but I think we will become more and more materialistic. And I'm really worried about that. Like I'm more worried that we are going to be further pushed into, just a constant consumerist mindset. And we're going to be in a place where people, I wanted to, before this interview, I like even said to myself in the mirror, I was like, don't come off as super cynical, like try to be optimistic about it. Cause I think that technology is wonderful. Like I love it. I love the fact that when you recommend a book for me, I could pick up my phone, it recognizes my face, I press 2 buttons and that book shows up the next day. I think that that's fantastic, but that does come at a cost. Right. And so I am worried that one, we're going to have, I think the wealth gap is a problem, but I think that the problem with the wealth gap is more than just actual people having more money than others. People that have money have figured out a way to, they've always known, but they're getting better and better at figuring out ways to keep the poor people down by making them buy things they don't need, so I think
it's more than that, it's just having unequal access to everything in society. You take a case to court between a rich person and a poor person.
Oh, sure.
The rich person has, a team of lawyers. The poor person is probably just himself. And then the judge was probably helped elected by the rich person. And then the law that he's arbitrating on was probably created by legislatures that were helped elected by the rich person.
Right. Yeah. No, there's always been, the imbalance. But I think that it's going to get worse as far as, like right now, there are people that I know, or, people that are out there that will spend an entire paycheck on a pair of shoes or on a new handbag because they feel like they have to, that to me is sad. And I don't blame these people. I don't think, oh, well, anybody that would do that is actually a moron. Like, I don't think that's fair to say. I think that they're up against some really smart marketing, and it's coming from every angle, even if they weren't on social media, even if they weren't, actually going to the mall once a week. I think that these larger corporations have really mastered this message of, if you don't own this, you're nothing, and I think that it's not fair to say that when you see somebody who doesn't have a lot but buys something that doesn't make sense, I don't think it's fair to blame them. I think that they're not really given any, like they're just force fed this marketing, you know? So
But, it's like whenever you think about defenders and attackers, right? Defenders have to be vigilant 24/7. The
right.
attackers just have to pick the one moment when the defender is weak.
Yes. Yeah.
And
No, that's a great point. Yeah.
and so these corporations, they can wait you out. They could
Yeah.
sit around and wait until that day you're
True.
feeling low, you're feeling
Yeah,
like you need something
true.
to pick you up. This is the thing,
Yeah.
It,
And
yeah.
but one of the things that has been happening a lot, in the last year or so, I'm sure it's happening everywhere. Minnesota, it's pretty bad right now. There's a lot of carjackings. There's a lot more robberies. And, a lot of people that don't really think beyond the surface are, coming out and saying, throw all these people in jail, like this is scum, get them out of our town, like these people don't deserve to be, in Minnesota with us. And I think, yes, no, I would also like to not be robbed. Like I would, I don't want that, but I think that we're missing that for these people out there, for a lot of them, we took away their livelihoods with the pandemic, like whatever jobs they had may not exist anymore. And, I think that we forget that for them, like that is a job. It's just not a legal job, but that's how they see their day. Nobody like you and I, people like us, we're not like, okay, I have a 10 o'clock meeting, then I have a hair appointment at 3. Let me just steal a car around 1. Like, no, we don't do that because we have an actual job, but like for these people out there, like they have to have money, and so I don't think that people are really considering the bigger problem here, which is that we're forcing people to choose a job that they had to make up for themselves that is not legal, and I think that there are bigger problems at hand than just that person is bad, so because the wealth that the small amount of money that some of these communities make gets fed right back up to the top through, predatory lending or through this, not good consumerism, like, things that they don't need, they just want because other people have them and they look nice, whatever, right? I think that the money that they do make is not being spent in the way that the money that we make is spent. And that results in the crime rate going up.
And, just basically, the role models and sources of knowledge that they have access to,
right?
Look at the world very differently than other people.
Absolutely. No, I have said it. I think I might have said it to you before, but I've said it to plenty of people. I don't think that people that are rich are better or smarter or anything. Like, I think it's the luck of the draw. I think that anybody who would have been born to my parents during the year I was born, all the circumstances surrounding where I was when I was born and where my parents were when I was born have put me into this comfortable lifestyle. I think that if that hospital, my little baby body got switched with some other little baby body, I think that that baby would be fine right now. I don't know if, maybe she would be doing even better than I would. I don't know. But I think that she would have a very low chance of being one of these people that has to steal a car to live. I think that it's just luck that my parents had the resources to take care of me, and had the safety in the country that we were living in, whatever, right? Like, I think all of that is luck. And we turn it into success, but also that's part of the parenting that my parents gave me. And I think that anybody that would have been their child would have turned out okay.
Well, you have like these dystopian novels where you have planned societies, like Brave New World, as an example.
Sure.
so I mean, kind of taking that thought and saying, hey, you want everybody to have equal opportunity, and you don't want to have people resorting to these types of things. Why not just have everybody have the same life? I mean, like,
I think there, that sounds really nice, but I just think there are some deep instinctive feelings that we have where we just need to be better than somebody else. I think that, I mean, animals must have that too, right? Like they have like, alphas and packs and things like that. But I don't know how we could, at least certainly not without completely starting over. I don't know how we could actually live as a society where everyone could look at their neighbor and say, nah, I'd like to have, a little more than that guy, right? Like, I don't know that could go away ever, right? So
yeah, I mean, interesting comment about unless we start over.
yeah,
There's been like communes and intentional communities and things like this that have tried to kind of create their own little bubble of society and try to do things different to different extremes. Some are like based on religion and some, kind of ecology and other things. But, they're all kind of like exist in this constant force of the global society.
right.
I was wondering what you thought about creating a society on Mars where you are so geographically disconnected from Earth that you could actually start over.
I could see that working. I mean, I think that there would still be conflict. I think that will always exist, and I think that there will always be people that, might be really good at hiding it, but will always feel like they might deserve more than someone else. I think that that's a big problem. I think we just have this sense of entitlement as, I don't know about every country, but as Americans, certainly we have this sense of entitlement where we think, well, I have this education and I make this much, so I should have more than somebody else. I think that absolutely exists. And, I don't know a lot of NASA people, but I would hope that they have less of that egotism, but I don't know that it would go away inside them, right? Like I think that they could hide it better, but I think that there's got to be for everyone some level of I'm better than this person, therefore I should have more. I think that will always exist. But sure, the society on Mars will have fewer like things to have, I guess, right? Like you're not on Mars and having, 30 different shoes to choose from, probably, right? Like everybody probably kind of looks the same, everybody probably dresses the same. But I think that there will probably be a fight for, I don't know, certain privileges on base, certain projects might seem more fun for somebody than somebody else, and they might think that they should have that. I think that conflict will always exist. I think people will just always fight over stuff, but I think it would definitely be a closer fight, right, than what is currently happening on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, and it keeps society kind of strong to some degree, as long as it's not destructive. Keeps the people in those positions, kind of having to continuously push themselves, motivates people to do more. So.
Well, I just think that what went wrong for us, but I mean, it isn't just America. Like obviously, kings and queens and stuff have had this stuff forever, but I think what just went wrong with us is that we saw what somebody else could have, and it's so far unattainable that the people that have plenty to live on and more than enough to give away and still live on, they want so much more because somebody out there owns $1 billion yacht. Maybe not a billion. I don't know. I don't really know that much about yachts because I try not to feel sad and look at them, but somebody out there owns that yacht which means that somebody who is making $1 million and should be so happy with what they have and the fact that their kids don't ever, need to ask for anything, right? Like that person now thinks, yeah, but I don't have the yacht, so I got to keep going. I can't give this away. I can't stop. And so I think that where we went wrong is having that extreme of wealth, and having that extreme of wealth be visible now is the problem. I think the fact that everybody knows how much like Bezos has or Zuckerberg has, because everybody knows that some human can attain that. They all want to get as close as possible. And I think in this situation on Mars, that yacht doesn't exist, right? So like the best thing that somebody can have is probably only slightly better than what they have, not so far ahead that it's going to be really stretched out, right? Like the gap.
Yeah, at least initially. I mean, it might be something simple as one has oxygen, the other one doesn't. That's kind of a big dividing line.
Yeah, I could see myself fighting for oxygen if somebody had it and I didn't. Yeah, I could see that being a thing. But as far as like no one needs a yacht. Like no one, right? The yacht does nothing. Like it's just.
But nobody needs a second pair of shoes either.
I would argue that for different weather conditions, you do need a second pair of shoes.
Yeah, Minneapolis being different than Texas. So.
Yeah, like maybe you guys can roll around in your flip-flops all day, but like I cannot wear sneakers out in the snow. Like, but as far as like a second pair of exactly the same shoe but a different color, yes, no, that doesn't need to exist. Yeah. So, but I think one thing that really made that, or is going to make it difficult to come back from that too, is that there's so many jobs now that are just a part of manufacturing too much, and if we stop that, where do all those people go? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what do all the people that, like, I think that I've obviously expressed that I don't like that this exists, but there's people out there who are really, really good at marketing, so like, where do those jobs go if we say, that's it, everybody just one pair of shoes, that's it, so like, where does that go?
There's a science fiction book I read written by Frederick Pohl where they have a society that's based in a very peculiar way. Like the lower economic status you are, the more you have to consume. And you have like this huge house and you have all this clothes and you have to figure out some way to like use it all, right? And as you work your way up in economic status, you actually get less and less. So you have to work less at using all of it. And so it's kind of peculiar.
I would be really interested in reading that, yeah. Because one of the things that I have always thought would, not solve it all, but I think that one thing that I would definitely push for if I was ever a politician, and I never want to be because I just never want to be, but one thing I think would be great is if there were more limits on real estate. I think that, I think that for an average human adult, with no like special condition, whatever, just you and me, right? Or just normal human adults, we do not need more than like 1,000 square foot of living space, right? So like you and your family, maybe 3,000-4,000 square foot of living space, that's all you really need, right? Like if we just times it out, right? But the fact that there are people out there that have like acres and acres of mansion land and like 5 swimming pools, like that is more expensive, but it should be even more prohibitively expensive where like no one would do it. I think that is would help a little bit. And I think also real estate to me is kind of just rewards the people that got there first. That's what it is, and so I think that it's going to be really hard for anybody who didn't get there first to ever really make it, because they're just paying rent to somebody who is not doing anything because they got there first, you know? And I think that for small businesses, for restaurants, like they're always talking about how slim their margins are and how they can't pay people more. And I think if the rent was not, you know, some huge chunk of their actual monthly bills, they could pay people more. Everybody would be doing better, you know? I just think that that makes the most sense. I think that it doesn't seem okay to me that there are people out there that work 2 jobs and half of their income is just to pay a landlord that doesn't do anything, you know? I think that that is not okay. So I don't know. That'll never get passed though, because the people that actually would be in charge of making that decision have the big houses or are friends with the people with the big houses. And they don't want to give their houses up because somebody out there has a bigger house than them and they don't want to go back down so many notches. It would only work if we start at the top and start telling the richest people, you know, you cannot have this much space. You cannot have this much nice stuff. So
I've been reading the story of Greece. It's you know, the life of Greece, which is part of the story of civilization. And the author Will Durant, he's talking about Athens at the end of the 7th century BC. Apparently, they had a huge wealth disparity at that point. And he makes the observation that equality and freedom are not partners, but actually enemies of each other. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Well, I have to think about that real quick. So, yeah, no, I could see what they're saying, because freedom is the guy being allowed to have all that house and all those yachts. And if we say you have to pare it down, you have to be equal to your neighbor who has just a 2,000 square foot house, I think that they would say that that is not, you know, that's taking away his freedom. I could see that. I do see that argument, but I just think that if we continue the way that we are, like, I think there's just got to be like a halfway between. Like, I don't want anybody to watch this video and be like, oh, Crystal's like a straight up communist, you know, like I'm not. But I think that there should be better controls. I just think it's gotten completely out of hand for the rich to get as rich as they have gotten. Like, I think it's out of control now, you know, especially like when you look at investing, like there are so many people out there who will never invest and will just live paycheck to paycheck forever. And it's not fair that somebody that just happened to be in a better financial situation can put some away and just turn it into money without doing anything for it, while somebody else out there is doing everything they have, you know, giving everything they have to just surviving. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. I don't really understand investing either. I've only done it like a very little bit and I think I'm bad at it. So maybe that also comes from a place of anger because I don't understand it. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem, it seems like if we keep going down this path, then in 50 years, 100 years, like, I think it will look like all those dystopian TV shows where the rich live in these cool space houses and the poor live in what looks like the actual Amazon rainforest, you know? Like, I think that could happen, and I don't want it to happen. I don't want people to be that far behind, because that's what causes crime. And I mostly just don't want that to have to be anything people resort to. You know, I think that devolves us for people to have to resort to crime to live. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so Jeff Bezos, he's one of the rich people you mentioned. And he has a yacht, of course, but he also has a space company.
He has 10 yachts, yeah.
He probably has 10 yachts, yeah. Some of some of his dinghies would be probably called yachts by us.
Right. Yeah.
He has yachts for yachts.
Right.
um, he also has a space company, and he took a trip to the edge of space this past summer, and he's really ridiculed for spending so much money on that when there's so
Mm-hmm.
many starving
Mm-hmm.
people in the world and things like that. I was just wondering, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that for him, it was just a vanity project. I think it is just he's run out of things to spend money on. And for him to do that, I think it absolutely sends a message to people that says, what's the next thing, the next fad for other people to chase, right? Like, so everybody knows what yachts are, everybody knows what these designer clothes are. Space is the new like thing. If you can do this, then you've made it, right? Like, I think that's the message that he sent, which I don't like. Like, I don't want people, like, I want people to be interested in space, but I don't think he's interested in space. I think he just wants to do something that shows how much superior he is to other people with his wealth. And that's the message that I think he sent. Maybe deep in his heart, he actually is really interested in space, and he actually, really has always wanted to do that. Sure, whatever. But from what the rest of the public image sees, like, we're just seeing this guy who's like, well, I have too many yachts now and I'm kind of bored, and I have too many houses now and I'm kind of bored. What's the next thing? And no one else is even close to him in the race for wealth. So for him to set that bar now is just going to create more problems, I think.
Now, when he graduated from Princeton, his valedictorian speech was on the need to go into space and to take all these earth harming activities that we do, like the mining, energy production, manufacturing, and actually move them off of the earth and make earth more of a, save it for life and for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's kind of like the vision that he talks about. And he's talked about it for decades, literally, just not front and center in his conversations. But assuming that is like his real intentions about creating big orbital facilities where you can kind of offload from the Earth all these things that are hurting the biosphere, what does that change your perspective at all?
If anything, that changes my perspective to think, well, then that's where the money should have gone, is into the research for this, not for him personally to go do a little loop-de-loop, like, for him personally to do that doesn't help the mission, like, it's just him wanting to do something. Like, if he had, put forth this money into a grant for research, or, people that will eventually be out in space all the time working, that makes more sense than for him to say, I'm going first because I can afford it.
Now, I mean, kind of like the way he explains it is that there needs to be an incremental step. So this is where they get the test kind of space operations and some of the hardware. They get to give potentially, thousands of people kind of like that glimpse of what space is like and Earth is like, and that they have bigger systems down the road that they're building that will actually create that road to space, they call it.
But I don't see what we gained from him going. Like, he's not going to ultimately be the astronaut. He just wanted to do it, like, because he just wanted to be the first one on the ride. Like that, I don't think that him spending the money for that initial flight and him going accomplished nearly as much as it could have if that money was spent somewhere else on, like, the people who are actual space experts, like you. You could have done it. He should have sent you. If he sent you, and then the rest of the world would have cheered, would have, his rating would have been better if he had just sent you or somebody else that was actually had like the space, passion to back it up, not just he just wanted to go to do it. I think, for himself to be first.
Yeah. Now, he created Blue Origin, his space company, back in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been working since then. So,
but like the money that, I don't know how much it cost for him to go on that one little trip. Like, but I imagine it was a lot of money, right? Like for all the fuel, all the whatever, like all the personnel building the ship, whatever. I don't know how much money it was, but I feel like that money could have been better spent. Is, like I don't think that we accomplished anything from him going, other than everybody hated him about it. So.
And so, for example, where would you spend that money?
Research, I think, having more people that could do the calculations, do the, the modeling, all that stuff. I think that a lot of that stuff, it's, it's personnel, like the pay that you would have to give to all these like geniuses to do this versus, and you're going to have to compete with the fact that some of these people that have some of the best minds in the business are working for corporations that are maybe not doing human advancement stuff. There are people out there that could absolutely be doing this stuff. Instead, maybe they're designing yachts, right? Like that's not, like there's probably like a brilliant mind who's doing that job, and you'd have to lure them over to do something that helps advance us towards our race first, or towards our road to space, right? And so I think a lot of that money is just to get the people to say, like, pick this route and not this one, just because this is a greedier route that, seems to pay you more right now.
That's a big challenge. How do we take the brains that are trying to guess the movement of asset prices and get them to actually figure out how to create a plastic substance that could be unlimitedly recycled?
Right. So, well, I think that, because I think that creates, right, like if we shift that, I think that does create a new shift, because, if we say, hey, this level of wealth and all the financial industry right now of you guys just basically doing money alchemy over here, like if we figure out ways to throw down controls on that in a way where these people cannot make that kind of money doing that anymore, then maybe their brains would shift to wanting to do stuff for the planet, wanting to do stuff towards going to space. Maybe, I don't know, but I mean, it's hard to tell somebody who is making, millions of dollars doing this, I don't know, asset pricing plan, whatever, like all the finance math. It's hard to tell somebody that makes millions of dollars doing that, hey, try this other thing that is going to pay you 1/10, but it's more important for humanity, right? Because these people are just trying to get to yacht status too, which is terrible.
So when and how did you learn that we were planning to send astronauts to the moon again for the first time since 1972?
It is from you, because I try to watch as many of these as I can. So it's from you. I have never been as into space as I was into other things. Like when I read science fiction, the stuff that I read is more about like a society later on or something like that, but not as much the like technical, the actual science of the spaceship, or the actual science of what it would take to have oxygen somewhere else. Like I wasn't really into that part of it as much. I was more into just what society would look like if XYZ rule existed, or if we got rid of some huge part of our society, whatever, right? Like that's kind of the stuff I've always read. So I was never that into following space stuff, I guess. So yeah, I learned it from you. I want it to happen. I don't know that, let's see, how old am I? I don't think that I would be eligible ever to live on another planet. Like I think that's not coming before I die. So Also, I'm in like the worst shape of my life, so I would not be allowed to go. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I am more interested in it now because I've met you and you have such enthusiasm for it that it's infectious, right? But I think that there's a part of me too that is like, I'm not seeing that that would solve the problems that are here fast enough. And I think that's maybe more where I put my energy, right? Into being mad about stuff that's happening here. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, electromagnetism is something that we highly depend upon. Without it, cell phones wouldn't be possible,
Sure.
TVs wouldn't be possible. You wouldn't be able to, I mean, internet may be possible, but it'd be all like wired communication,
Yeah, I don't
Wi-Fi
want that.
wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have GPS, a whole bunch of things you wouldn't have.
Mhm.
But the discovery of that just opened up a whole bunch of new things. What do, what do you think about the argument of by getting out there and exploring? We may not be able to articulate what the value is ahead of time, but it allows for us to kind of have a deeper understanding of what's going on in the universe, and maybe we could find something just as fundamental as electromagnetism that could unlock unimaginable. I mean, you go talk to like the Romans, back in like, I don't know, 500 AD, and you're like, hey, you know what we should do? We should go and find copper and try to understand, how to make pulsing waves of electrons go from one to
Mhm.
another one. They probably would not invest in such a thing, but it's been so transformational for our society.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. Yeah, totally. So yeah, I think space exploration is important. I just don't really understand enough about what we're doing when we're out there, because I think that there are people out there that believe that what we're doing out there is just trying to find somewhere else to land. Like that's why we get so excited about water, that we find. I think that there, and I think maybe for a long time I thought that too. I thought that that was the whole point. The whole point was we were just like, we got to make sure that there's a second Earth we can end up on if something terrible happens. And then I think I also thought we were out there just making sure that we knew as far out as we possibly could in case like an attack happened or something. I don't know. Maybe this, I mean, are the actual scientists like concerned with that? Am I just making that up that that's something that they're thinking about? Or do most scientists not think that aliens are at all a threat? Like, do most, I don't know the answer to that. Like, do you think that they're actually out there concerned that aliens could come and they're like constantly vigilant on it? Like, is that at all part of the motivation to be there?
I don't think it's part of the motivation, but I'm kind of curious. Have you read the Three Body Problem
Yes.
series?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, with
I
the
read
whole
it for
dark
the book
forest.
club. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about the books after that? The
No, I
Dark
didn't.
Forest.
No,
Okay.
no. But I mean, okay, so then in the books after that, without like completely ruining it, I don't know how you could answer this without completely ruining it, but is the did we stop them by catching them early on?
I can't go into that, but I will tell you
Okay.
this, that one of the theories that's proposed in the subsequent books is that the reason we haven't heard of any other civilizations or aliens is because everybody else that exists understands the true nature of the universe, and that is the moment that they reveal themselves, the greater powers out there will destroy them for fear that they'll be a threat. And so there's like this dark forest thing.
Mhm.
And we're like the children in the dark forest who are making the bonfire and singing the music and stuff, and the animals are gathering around us, ready to
Okay.
devour us.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So then, Do you think most scientists think like that?
All the ones that I've talked to about it that express an opinion all seem to think that these aliens are big enlightened beings that are just you know, awed by the nature of the universe and would be friendly in some different levels.
Do you think that we are on the young side then as a species? Like, do you think that we like, I mean, we think we're like hot with our internet and our like Wi-Fi, but like, you know, there's people out there, or not people, but like there's got to be societies out there that like came up with that a long time ago and they're way past that, right? Like there has to be, right?
You would think so, but you know, it's kind of amazing if you go back 200 years ago, no electricity, no lights, no flying, no you know, nuclear reactors, no spaceships, no satellites, you know, no internet, no computers, no iPhones. I mean, and people lived for hundreds and thousands of years. You know, technology did not seem to progress nearly as quickly as it did in the past 120.
Well, so
I mean, I heard that, you know, the Roman Empire, for example, lasted about 1,000 years. You could take a Roman soldier from the beginning of that time period and put him in, you know, a battalion at the end of that time period, and he would adjust just fine.
Yeah,
like,
wow.
You know, whereas you take somebody that, you know, was a soldier 25 years ago or 30 years ago, I like completely changed for them.
That's true. That's true. No, I mean, because if you think about it, right? Like, didn't the first airplane, when the Wright brothers did their little airplane and then the landing on the moon the first time, like somebody was alive for both of those. Like there are people out there that were alive for both of those events. Like, so that's, you know, that's crazy to think about, right? But I don't know, like what, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's like the whole point of technology, right? Like, I don't know what is next after the internet, right? Like, will we get to a place where we do live in that Ready Player One world where we all have like the metaverse or whatever? Is that really going to be a thing? Is that next? Like, are we really all going to live like that?
It's just a bunch of brains in jars connected to each other.
Yeah. Is that coming?
Well, another scary thing is if we were already doing that, would we know a difference?
Yeah, that's true. You know what I was thinking about the other day that, you know, is a terrible, evil thought, but how come, like, I know you don't play video games, but like I've played like, you know, some RPG games where you just blindly do the quest, right? Like the quest says, hey, go kill exactly 10 little frog people, come back, you know, whatever. And you just
They're
do it.
training you. They're training you.
Yeah,
Those
it
are
just says,
recruitment
kill the
tools.
frog people. You click a button, it says the frog people are north of here. You go there, you kill the frog people, you kill 10, you come back, you get, you know, like a new sword or whatever, right? Like that's how these games work. How has no company yet built out something that looks like a game, right? But the actual quests inside of there are somehow basically doing work for the company, and you're
Absolutely.
not paying people. Like, how has that not happened yet, right? Like one really simple job that you know, like some random 13-year-old could do here for free or for a sword, you know, would be to kind of assist in the like double checking for like OCR reading or something, right? Like if they like show you basically like a CAPTCHA, right? And then you have to say what it says, and then you just do that. And if you had to do that for like 20 minutes and then you get a sword in your game, like I feel like people would do it, right? Because it's the same amount of effort to like look at a word and be like, no, that's not what the word says, as it is to like kill a frog, you know? So like what, not a real frog, like in the game, right? So like, how has that not been built yet? Where some company is basically, because there's an actual job that they are paying someone to do exactly that, to like double check the CAPTCHAs or, double check the voice to text to make sure that it's working properly, right? To calibrate it and to like put more data into the machine learning engine. Like that's a job that a human's doing right now for some amount of pay. How has no company shoved that into a way to trick people to do,
Yeah, most certainly. But I heard of this thing called CAPTCHA too, which I think is used in a lot of places where they give you like two things that you have to type in, right?
Yeah.
And they know one already, but they don't know the other one. And you don't know which one they know and which one they don't know.
So we are doing the work for
We
them.
are doing the work.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And apparently they're using real text, like from books and stuff that they're trying to encode.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it feels brilliant, actually. But how do you...
Yeah, because they're doing it for free, right?
Yeah.
But then, so they must be doing the same thing for those pictures where they're like, tell me which one of these pictures is a car, right? Which
yeah, you'd think so.
I can't handle, because like sometimes like the edge of the car will be like just in the square, and then I'm like,
do I include it?
Oh, yeah. Right. But that must be right. Like, so the CAPTCHA thing, so then some company is doing that then, exactly what I said. But that is like less frequent, right? Because it's just every time I forget my password or create an account or something, which isn't that frequent. But like if I was playing a game and I was just doing this over and over again and just like sitting here like completely hypnotized doing this just to get a new sword in my game, like it would be so much more productive, right? Like I just don't understand how that no one's made that yet.
Yeah. And then plus, especially if we could keep sort of the veneer of the game,
right?
And have it actually work the problem, It's
right.
Like the spell says, retype the spell.
Right. But like, and then you sell it as, oh no, this is an educational game, but it's not. It's just, they're just doing work.
They're just doing my income tax,
Yeah.
They're trying to find the greatest deductions I can have.
Yeah, but they turn it into a game and then at the end, right? Like I don't know. I think that could be I just don't know how no one's done it yet. Maybe someone's tried and then like somebody said, no, sounds like child labor, you can't do it. I don't know. But
coming back to your space exploration and trying to find some other place from Earth, my understanding of the solar system is that regardless of how bad we mess up the Earth, it will be easier to live on the Earth than any place else in the solar system.
Yes, I have heard that. I obviously don't I don't know as much as you do, but I have heard that. Yeah. Just because of it has to be like exactly the right distance for the heat to make sense or so forth. But do you think that we will all evolve more? Like, do you think that this is our final form for humans? Like, do you think we will get smaller? Do you think we will get more hairless? Like, that's coming, right? Or do you think?
We're at the point where we can edit our own genes and we can become whatever we want. So a lot of it's going to depend upon fashions and people's own principles.
Yeah, well, but that's not gonna help us, like I'm thinking like the hairless thing makes a lot of sense. Like there's no reason for humans to really have body hair anymore, right?
I don't know, whenever you sweat, it's nice to have eyebrows.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't want to not have eyebrows. I feel like my face would look really dumb without eyebrows, but I mean, like there's no reason to have like leg and arm and back hair and all that stuff, right? There's no reason for that. We have clothes,
especially not if you're going to rip it off.
Right. Yeah. And the planet's getting hotter and it's just like some other task that people have to do, So hold on one second. I gotta okay, sorry. So I feel like but then when I think about like how come that hasn't happened yet, then I like remember that we still have appendixes. And we absolutely have not needed those for a very long time, but that's still hanging out in there. So how much longer until that goes away? Are some people born without them? Is that happening or no, everyone still has one?
I have no idea. I mean, I presume everybody is, is getting them. So, I mean, there's no reason to think.
Do you think it's just, so maybe this is more biology than space, but when somebody's organ gets removed, like, do you have to like put something in there to prop it all up, or does it like fall down if there's not, like, if you take the appendix out, does everything else kind of slump inside of you. Like, I just don't understand it. Maybe that's why we keep it.
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but no, that's a good question. We should look at people before and after appendices and see what they are. I remember having a music teacher in like 5th grade who said that her husband had his appendix removed, and like whenever he beat his belly, like each side would make a different tone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and leave it to the music teacher to observe such a thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But like, do you think, so yeah, so back to the original question, do you think we'll get smaller as people? Or do you think because the issue is there's more and more of us, so we should get smaller, but I don't think we're getting smaller. I think if anything, we are getting bigger because the tall men tend to get to procreate, right? So that makes more tall people, right? But it's not really to anyone's advantage to be tall anymore, except for to get a mate, right? Like that's the only real reason to be tall anymore. No one needs
Hard to
to
play
really,
basketball. I mean,
yeah, but that's not necessary to survival, like that's just another job to have. But like there's not, for us to survive, there's no reason for anybody to be tall or hairy anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and then another thing is what's beneficial for us versus beneficial for those that shape society. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're working at Amazon warehouse, the types of skills that you'd want in terms of physical characteristics might be a lot different than if you're trading stocks on the stock floor. Maybe we all are like Monsters Incorporated.
Maybe. Well, okay, so wait, hold on. Sorry, sidetrack again with this Amazon warehouse. Can you explain to me why there are so many humans working in those warehouses? Like, I thought that the robots would have been like, it would just been like as automated as possible. Like, what do all the humans do?
I know. You would expect for it to be 100% automated. I mean, even the delivery to your house, I think it's just a matter of time. I think that the humans are just so cheap.
But are they cheaper than robots? No. Like, I mean, the initial cost of developing the robot, yeah, but then after that, like they've got to be able to measure out that.
Once you got robots building robots, then at some point it should become really, really cheap. It's just a matter of energy and material and the ability to transform the material into something useful.
I just, whenever I hear about, like, I heard some statistic about them being like the largest employer, like after, or I don't remember if it was largest, but it's the amount of people they employ across the country, like doing the delivery supply chain leg of it, not the actual, website leg of it. I think that number was like, it like blew my mind, because I was like, what do these people do? Like, do they just look at the machines and make sure they're running well? Like, I just don't really understand what's going on inside that factory,
I mean, I understand they have like a picker position where they have like a little screen in front of them that tells them put these items in the box, and they have these carts that come up to them, and then they just pick it from those carts. But
you know what I also don't understand? How come no one is, well, maybe someone's working on it and I just haven't heard of it, but how come it hasn't really been a large ontaking to use robots for a pharmacist's job? Like, why is there a human pharmacist still a job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't they essentially a librarian of pills? Like, they literally just look up where the pill's supposed to be, go get it, and put it in a cup, and then that's it. Like, that doesn't sound like a human needs to do that, right? Because I mean, yeah, like you want to make sure that there are no mistakes, sure, but like, even a human can make a mistake, and you want to make sure that no one's just getting a million Oxycontin that they didn't get a prescription for, sure, but like there would be controls where you'd have to have the prescription, and the prescription would have some sort of like encrypted signature or something, right? That says this is okay, coming from a real doctor. And I think I've talked about this with other people, and they're always like, well, what if you like hack that signature? Like what if you, hack the thing to say, yeah, I definitely need 1 million Oxycontin that I'm gonna go sell on the street now. But you could forge that anyway right now in our current process, which is just pen and paper, and no one can even read what the paper says, So like, I don't understand why that's not like a robot job, right? Why do you think
Well,
that's not?
well, I mean, obviously because the pharmacists are able to make sure that the law is in place that requires the pharmacist to be there. I mean,
what does a pharmacist make now? Like 100 grand, right?
I'm not sure, but I imagine it's around there.
Yeah, but like think about every CVS, Walgreens, Target, Walmart, whatever. Think about all of those sites. They all have one. Like, and then that person, depending on the day, may not really be busy the whole day, right? So like you're paying somebody to just kind of be like a cashier or a librarian, that amount of money for their, I get it. Like they paid a lot to go to school and they spent a lot of time learning their craft, but like, how could a robot not do that job better?
Or a real estate agent. That would be another
Right.
thing. I mean,
Yeah. There's no, right. Like we all just look up our own stuff. I mean, I think there's still that industry would still need to exist, but those jobs just wouldn't be doing the administrative stuff. Their jobs would be developing the systems on the back end, or like I think that pharmacology should still be a degree that someone takes, but it's more about the research to make sure that they know which pills can't go together or what pill has what side effects. I think that still needs to exist, but I don't think that there needs to be a person that's just doling it out.
Yeah. Or maybe you have one pharmacist overlooking all the machines in a central location and can talk to each patient, and it's like boom, 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 as opposed to.
But I mean, are people still like, can you, I mean, I don't know. I don't ever get medicine because I don't ever go to the doctor. So who knows what I have, but I don't know. Can you get all your stuff online too? Like, is that a thing? Can you get your prescription online? Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Because I don't know why that's not just like some Amazon model, right? Like there's just warehouses with all the stuff.
Okay, I got one last question for you.
Okay.
Do you think we'll always be Earth centric, or do you think at some point humanity would have expanded beyond the Earth and Earth is just one of many places that humans exist?
I kind of am a little flippy floppy on this, because something like when you first asked that question, the image of a future Earth that popped in my head is exactly the image in the movie WALL-E, the Disney movie, yeah. And so then I was like, well, then that sucks, right? Like no one wants to be here at that point. So I think that my gut reaction to this question is that we will have used up Earth. And the whole point of us going somewhere else is that there's no way anybody could really live here anymore, which is sad. It's super sad. But I want to be more optimistic than that, but I think that's my gut reaction is that. But like you said, it's so difficult to live anywhere except, just for temperature, water, like air pressure, like all that stuff. But I mean, I don't know the science behind it, but like you can generate oxygen. Like if we lived on another planet, we just have to live under like a little dome, right? Or we'd have to so just the dome forever. But then do we have to go back to Earth to get stuff to make the dome work? That's the question, right? That's like where my science knowledge is not adequate to really know the answer, right? Like can you power the dome without coming back to get something from Earth? Can you? Do you know?
I mean, I don't see why we couldn't find those same resources in other places.
Well, I don't know what it would take to make the oxygen. Like, what are they? I mean, is it just a filtration like of the carbon dioxide that we're throwing out, and then we basically just
That
like
will work.
power ourselves? But like,
Yeah.
but is that all it would take, or would there need to be something else to power the thing that converts it, right? Like, do we need to go get batteries from somewhere? Do we need to get, the materials to build solar panels from somewhere? Like, I just don't understand that part,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have a good enough understanding of what resources are available in those places and the shape of those resources and what it would take to actually transform them into things we want.
Right. Because I'm imagining it like camping, right? So like when I don't ever go camping because I just don't want to, but like if I went camping, technically, yes, if I have my tent that I bought from Target, like back in Civilization, and I have my water bottle and I have like my food that I brought from the grocery store, yes, I could be fine out there. But then like when I need to re-up, I have to go back into Civilization, get more food, and then bring it back, and then I could live out there for X amount of days again, right? Like, so that I'm kind of imagining that model, right? So like we go somewhere else, but there's something that only Earth has, that it's not, it doesn't make sense to just bring it all over at once, and we have to like go back and forth just to re-up on it. I think that is the model I'm envisioning. Right? Okay.
Well, I think for the first few decades, you will be dependent upon stuff on the earth, but at some point, you've got to become self-sufficient.
But like, I want it to be because we evolved too. I want it to be because we can survive on less or something like that. And I just, after talking about this appendix thing, I feel like we're not going to evolve fast enough. I think that it's going to take forever, and we're going to keep looking the way we do and have, be too big or be too dependent on certain things, right? Or I don't know that we could live on like a different oxygen saturation level or something like that. Like, I don't know that we could evolve to do that without suffering like our health, and we just like die right away, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why do you think we can?
Yeah, we could change and become smaller and require less.
Yeah.
I think it's probably more likely we can figure out how to get the things that we need than to need less of it.
But you know what I am the most worried about with like space travel? Like the thing that because I know I said before, I probably wouldn't be invited to go because I'm really not in good physical shape. And that's my own fault. Like I could be, I just work from home and don't do anything. But one of the things that I think would make me not want to do space tourism right away is that for me, tourism is so much food based. And I bet space food is like just efficient food, and I don't want efficient food, right? And so the thing that would make me the most sad about living a life on a different planet is that I can't imagine that there's delicious food out there that we haven't uncovered. I bet we would just eat manufactured, efficient food,
Yeah.
I don't want that.
The variety and spice and everything nice.
It wouldn't exist. Yeah, it wouldn't exist.
Well, we got to make sure we bring that with us.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll all be science food by then, right? Like just all like a little bit of vanilla flavoring, a little bit of strawberry flavoring, whatever, right? But it's not food. I don't know. I don't know if that'll be our future, right? Like where food's not really a thing anymore, and we're just, I don't know, wearing the same. I would be cool to wear the same outfit as everybody else and own one pair of shoes. That part would be really cool. But I don't want to eat that food bar. So no.
Yeah, all just eating the same kind of gloop with different.
Yeah, I don't want that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just like, I thought that you would have asked me that question. Like, would you go live on the moon? Like, I thought that was going to be one of the questions, And so I like prepared my thought process, and it
Well,
all just
tell me.
no,
What?
because the food bar. I don't want to eat the food bar. Like I don't want to come just for that. Like if somehow it doesn't exist, but like if there was like really cool new food on the moon that I had never heard of before that was delicious and life-changing to eat, yeah, I'd be there. I'd be the first one in line to go. But like I just don't want to go and eat granola bar things. Like I just don't want to eat like that. And so I would be pouty the whole time on vacation, or what, I'm assuming this is moon vacation. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I don't know what I would do out there. Like when people envision like the moon as a tourist area, like what do you see happening out there? Just looking at space and rocks? Like what do people who aren't science focused do on moon tourism, you know?
I think several things. One is I think they'll look at the Earth. I think that'll fascinate them. I think they'll look at the sun. I think they'll look at the stars. I think they would experience sort of the 1/6 gravity and
Sure.
see how high they can hop and bounce
Yeah.
around, and maybe even they can fly with inside these big caverns. I think they would go collect moon rocks, make
Yeah.
moon castles, I guess. And then I think also the whole range of activities you have here on Earth, they would have there as well. Concerts and sporting events and.
Yeah. See, that's the thing that I would almost be mad if we did, is if we had concerts and sporting events on the moon. I'd be mad that, because that would be so resource intensive, right? Like, because then we're bringing all that stuff over, and I think that going to a concert on the moon is going to be the new yacht, you know? Like, I don't know that advances us to have a concert on the moon. I think it absolutely advances us to go to the moon and to figure out how to, breathe and eat on the moon. I think that advances us. But I think having a concert on the moon is just like spending money for spending money, right?
Putting money in a fireplace and just burning it, you're saying?
Yeah, like that's gotta be, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, flying from, now you could hop on a plane and go halfway around the world for probably less than a week's pay.
Yeah.
At one time that would have considered to be ludicrous as well. It really depends upon how much it costs. If it costs $10,000-$20,000 to go to the moon, why not?
Yeah, but when you think about that though, like the why not, it's if you're going for the things that you said, where you have that like life-changing, this is what Earth looks like from far away, like this is just a new experience. I think all that stuff makes sense. But I think that to bring in like Vegas lights and concerts and, like all this entertainment stuff, I think that is just some company profiting, but it just seems like a waste of however much it costs for the fuel to transport that stuff up there, however much it costs to, get it up and running under the moon's conditions. Like, I just think that is not a smart use of money. Even if we think, well, yeah, we're getting it from Earth, we'll just get more from Earth. I think that it is all finite. We're not going to be able to just get more space fuel wherever we want, so I think we should be smarter with it, right? I don't know.
I have a mental exercise for you.
Okay.
Imagine the sun.
Okay.
Imagine Earth's orbit.
Okay.
Imagine a sphere that has the same circumference as Earth's orbit.
Okay.
Now the sun is radiating out in all directions, and that sphere represents the total output of the sun.
Sure.
Now imagine a cross section of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is basically how much of that sphere the sun's energy is actually falling on the Earth. Do you know what the ratio approximately is? between the total surface area of that sphere and that cross section?
No, like super, like no, I don't know.
How about around the neighborhood of 1 to 700 billion?
Yeah, I was gonna come up with a number that wasn't real, like gazillion, which isn't a real number, I think. But yeah, it was gonna be something like that, I imagine. Yeah.
Now, with that 1/700 billion, that has literally powered everything on Earth, every storm, every life, every gallon of oil, everything. So we actually have access to what essentially for us would be unlimited power. We just have to figure out how to capture more of it.
Yeah, I could see that. But I think like, I mean, but metals are finite, right? Like, don't we need metal to do stuff? Like, there's only so much.
Well, if you consider the cars that were created in like the 1920s, the ones now have significantly less metal than the ones in 1920s. Like we learned how to do more with metal.
Yeah.
And the great thing about metal is you can melt it down, reuse it, melt it down, reuse it.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I'm still like not positive about concerts on the moon, but okay. I don't know. I mean, I'm like mad all the time about just stuff that, because I'm definitely not a big environmentalist, like I probably have a light on in my house right now in a room I'm not in, like I'm not like a total stickler. I just think that some things are completely wasteful. Like I think NASCAR, I don't care who sees this video, I think NASCAR is the worst thing in the world. I think it makes no sense that we have this resource that we're running out of and we give it to people to not go anywhere or get anything done. And then we encourage people to think it's glamorous to drive really fast and then they get hurt or hurt others. I think that NASCAR is the most garbage activity in the entire world. Like it should not exist. It should be illegal. Like I'm mad that it exists. And I think of a concert on the moon as being, while less dangerous, in the same vein of wastefulness,
No. Would you
Going
go
to the
to
moon, not wasteful. Concert, wasteful. Okay.
Would you go to a bullfighting competition?
I don't think so. I don't think I would go. I don't know. I'm going to say no, I would not go. Because even though I'm not, again, like not the biggest animal rights, whatever, like I've never donated money to like an animal rights charity or anything like that, but one second. So I think that just humans have just gotten too comfortable, or at least the upper class has gotten too comfortable to the point where we're bored and we come up with stuff to do that just doesn't go forward. It's just spinning our wheels to spend money. And I think that the bull thing is also in that vein. Like the bull, I get that we're not really torturing the bull as much as we probably did 100 years ago, because I think somebody's probably stepped in and said like you have to treat the bull a little better than this. But I think overall still it's not, that bull does not want to be there, like it's just the spending of resources and just like enslaving this animal for no benefit except for somebody makes money off of it and somebody spends that money to figure out how to kill 2 hours of their life, like that's how I see it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's art to it. I don't think there's any progress with it. I think it's just people running out of ideas of things they want to do,
How about the Olympics?
I think the Olympics, Well, no, I think the Olympics are different because these are humans that want to do that. The bull does not want to do any of that. You know, the bull was like raised from captivity and like is, you know, a slave. Like, I don't think Olympians are slaves. Maybe in like, I don't know, Russia, but like the rest of the world, I think the Olympians actually want to do it. And, you know, I don't know. It does, but now that I'm thinking about it, it is wasteful. It is, you know, like they're not like somebody throwing like a disc really, really far, or, you know, learning a way to flip 10 times on a snowboard or something. It doesn't really do anything for us as a society, right? I don't really, now I have to think about this, but the biggest difference is these people are free, mostly, right? Like these people are choosing this path. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to give a definitive answer on that. I have to think about that, on whether that's wasteful or not. Because I don't know what it does for people. I mean, I guess it encourages national, you know, like a sense of patriotism, probably, right? Like if that happens, I think it probably makes people want to go to war a little less, maybe, right? Like, I guess that's the benefit. And it's not as resource expensive as like NASCAR. So I guess it's, you know, I'm on the fence, Nathan.
What if we put the UN in orbit and all the delegates had to actually see the Earth as they're like contemplating policies? You think that would make any difference?
I think that the way the politics should work should be that everybody straight up has to do it like the Masked Singer. Like they just roll up. You have no idea who's under there. You have no idea what they've done before. They just say, these are the things I care about. These are the things I want to change. And then you vote. And then whoever wins takes the mask off. That's your leader. You know, I think that's how it should go. I don't think that we should be voting based on whether they had a reality TV show or not. I think that is a terrible reason for somebody to be a president. Okay. I do not think that we should go based on who has. Oh, you just sent me a thank you for participating email. We're still in this.
That's automated. Sorry.
Oh, you're like playing me off right now. Like
No,
it's like Kane from the like Night of the Apollo. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No. Calendly has been great. It sends reminders, sends a follow-up email. So
Okay.
I think it's automatically set to send it an hour after the end.
Okay. Yeah.
No hands on keyboard on me.
Okay. Yeah. No. You probably hotkeyed the play crystal off button. Yeah. So, no. I do have to get going pretty soon. I committed to lunch.
Yeah.
Now, but yeah. So back to we're on the Olympics, and then do we have something after the Olympics? I don't remember now.
Not. But you were talking about politics. You said the mask.
Oh, the politics. That's right. Yeah, I think that you should not be able to charm shouldn't be part of politics. You know, I think it should be, these are the actual things I want to change. These are the actual things I'm mad about. These are the actual things that I want to work for. Like that's how it should go. I don't think it should be, look how famous I am. Look at all my famous friends. Look how many followers I have on Twitter. That should be why, you know, like that's not how it should go. I mean, I get it. It's hard to implement any kind of change to something like this because the people who benefit the most from it are the people that choose whether to change, and they're not going to change anything because their system is fine, you know? So, yeah.
Well, sounds good. Thank you so much, Crystal. I really appreciate your time. I think we really could have talked forever, but we better not test that.
Okay. I mean, if you ever are like, it's like really late at night and then you can't get somebody for that day, I could put a wig on and I could just be a whole new person for you. Right. So
I'll keep that in mind. I may get down to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, take care.
Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.